Welcome in. Good friend of the show. It's been a little while since we've had a chance to catch up with former Utes. Kenneth Scott back on the drive on a Wednesday. Kenneth, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well, man. Can't complain. How's everything on your end?
We're all right, man. We're all right. You know, it's been interesting couple of weeks for sure, and there's a lot I want to talk to you about, but I want to start with what the last few weeks have been like for you and, you know, some of the emotions you've gone through as you've watched some of the coverage and experienced some of these things that we're all now seeing as a nation. What's it been like from your vantage point?
I say it's been a lot of I get a bittersweet type moment because I'm saddened by a lot of the stuff that's going on, but I'm also hopeful in what's been transpiring, if that makes sense. For instance, you know, all the changes in the conversations that's been had to make awareness of everything that's been going on is providing other people that may have in turn not really been paying attention, but now they do because of the pandemic and us being home. So they're now watching everything or even on their phones more often than what they should be. And now everything with, you know, inequality, justice, anything like that now is being in the forefront of everything. So I'm saddened by everything, but on the flip side, with everything that's going on, I see that a lot of changes are being made and people are being aware of it. So that's bringing a lot of hope for me, and it makes me happy to see that things are starting to shift in a good space.
You know, I'm glad that you're feeling some hope, Kenneth. That makes me feel good because I don't know what it's like to be you, and I never will, no matter what, no matter how much I try, no matter how much I read or listen or watch. I'll just never know what it's like. I was born in privilege. I was raised in privilege. I cover sports for a living. So what I'm trying to do is give people like you a platform and space just to express whatever emotions or feelings you want to express. So that's what I'm trying to do on the show. And what my question for you is what is it like growing up? And you're a big dude. You're an athlete. So, I mean, instantly you probably pose visually what some people would perceive to be a threat, even though that's not real. What has your life been like growing up in this country as an African-American male?
Man, early on, it was tough. Very tough, because I grew up in an area where a lot of minorities. You know, my area is just black and Mexican. That's all you see. The only people that is not of those races are policemen. And so going through that time, it's definitely hard because everybody perceives you as someone that's on the other side, you know, whether it's gangbanging, drugs, violence. They perceive you as that because that's the environment that you're in. So they instantly categorize you as that. And so as I got older, started filling out my space. You know, my friends are my friends because that's who all I have in my environment. They kind of pinhole you like, oh, he's one of those guys too. And so it's something like I shared with, you know, Michelle Bodkin on the 24/7, you know, story, you know, when I was 17. And I was just getting my mom some chips and a soda, like that was her favorite meal. And I went across the street to Arco, the gas station, and we had to jump a wall. And so after I got done getting her snacks, came back to the dirt field, I just get bamboozled by policemen and put me to the curb because they assumed that I was who they were looking for, you know, a tall figure with, you know, tall body, lean figure, wearing all black. But I had on a black hoodie with basketball shorts and some flip-flops with calf socks, you know. So it's like, man, so it's definitely tough in that realm, you know, being categorized as that. And so as you get older, you're like, man, how can I feel like I want to fit in? And so one of the things that I took early on was, you know, figuring out Utah as an option for me. I thought it would be the best for me as far as individually to learn from a different perspective, give me more, I guess, exposure to expand on what I was right then at that moment. What I needed was to be experienced someone other than the minority group. I need to get out of my shell, which I was sucking to when I was younger. So when I was younger stages, I was going through that. I only knew my perspective. But as I graduated and went to college, you know, I didn't do myself that much justice because, you know, my upper body's filled with tattoos. So instantly that's on me as well. Like, oh, shoot, here goes this tall black guy with tons of tattoos. So it's like, dang, is he a thug? Like, what is he? And so a lot of times I try to put on this, beside with like my Utah gear, making people know like, hey, look, I play sports. even though they got the wrong sport about me wrong all the time, they thought I was a part of Utah Jazz. But still, nonetheless, it provided me with good comfort because I wore athletic wear, so they pinned me as, oh, I'm just an athlete. Just being pinned as that, like, dang, why can't I be something other than just an athlete? And why, that brings on a whole other conversation. But it is kind of, it sucks in a way because you have to change up who you are a lot of the times to try to fit the mold of what's accepted. And so the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, there's certain type of clothes you wear. Like, I can't, if I wear a white T-shirt and someone else wears a white T-shirt, they may just be perceived differently. That's just some things you got to think about. Or if I wear a certain type of hat and someone else wears the same hat, it may be perceived differently. They may think I'm in the game because the logo on the baseball hat. What's you? They probably just think you're a baseball fan. It's just totally different. And they look at my tattoos. We can have the same exact tattoos, as one another, and they may look at my tattoos in a whole different light because of what I look like, per se, someone else. So it's just different things to think about. The type of shoes you wear. A lot of people wear Chuck Taylors, right? And so if I wear Chuck Taylors, they're going to like, oh, he must be a gangbanger. Or if I wear Cortezes, people are like, oh, he must be a gangbanger. But someone else in a different color wear Cortezes or Chuck Taylors, they're like, oh, he likes the style. It's just different. And that's some of the things I tell some people. I don't tell it all. But those are some of the things that we have to fight through a lot of times, just in that perception of reality. And so me, myself, I try to change that. And it's hard at times, but, it's just something that we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Yeah, and in order to do that, Kenneth Scott is my guest, former you and I have to have conversations that sound like this. I mean, it's what we have to do because, look, the outfit you described that you were wearing when you went to get your mom some food, that was like my uniform in high school. Basketball shorts, right. Flip-flops, T-shirt. But I'm a 6-foot white kid with no tattoos, so there's no worries for me. And the fact that just because of the color of your skin, you were treated differently while the two of us were doing essentially the same thing, to me is a problem. But I want to go back to the fact that you said that you're feeling a little bit of hope because I think that's great, but I know there are a lot of people that might disagree because they just feel like, here we go again. Like the rage cycle happens, Kenneth, in this country for hundreds of years, and then something horrible happens, and we all say, let's do better, and then in a couple of months we forget. What makes this – because it feels different for me, but I don't matter in this scenario. You do. What makes this feel different to you as far as the hope that you have right now?
I think just people are a little more tired. And plus with this pandemic, it's making us settle down. So it's forcing us to have to watch everything, see everything. And it kind of opens up that scab and builds that wound again. It's like, oh, shoot. Because now you have to sit in it. You can't just mask it with going to work or mask it with, oh, I'm going to football practice or mask it with anything. You really have to sit in it. And every time you're on your phone, you're seeing something of it. If you're on the streets, you're seeing something of it. So it's like right there in your face 24/7. And that's probably the best thing that could have happened, especially with the pandemic going on, because it's allowing people it's forcing you to have to sit down and pay attention to everything that's going on. And so that's why I say I'm hopeful, because we don't know when this pandemic is going to end. And so the longer the pandemic happens, which is a sad thing, I'm not trying to take that lightly, but the longer the pandemic happens, the longer it's going to force people to sit down and take notice to what is being, put on, social media about people, being activists and trying to inspire real change. And so, and especially on the TVs as well, and it's bringing a lot of light and more education and more conversation and more awareness amongst not just one group, but all groups. So that's the reason why I'm hopeful.
You mentioned where you grew up and, how there were other minorities all over the place. And, I'm very familiar with your story and I've been interviewing you ever since you were a student athlete here. So I'm aware of some of the things you went through in Ontario, California, where you grew up. But you came here and it's a much different place. I didn't grow up here, but it's home. And it's been home for over 20 years. So it's different than where I grew up, but I really, really have grown to love it and embrace it. But what the reputation is outside of Salt Lake, the way people view people here. So what would you say about your experience as a football player at the University of Utah and here in Salt Lake City? And what do you tell people when they ask you what it was like?
I tell them people it was a much needed experience. And I say that because it educated me. Because just like someone else's perspective of me, like from the other side, I had the same perspective about everybody else. I thought, people of the other race were snotty. They were going to judge me, and it wasn't like that at all. And so I had to do justice in myself by educating myself, having those open conversations with them, gaining some awareness about how they grew up, and in return it helped me. So a lot of people don't know, like growing up, I was on Section 8 food stamps. We lived in, the project area, and then also all our income was SSI checks. That's all it was. My mom's Social Security checks. And so growing up, I didn't have the funds needed to be able to play organized sports. We didn't. And so a lot of people would donate money to have me play. Thankfully, I had the athletic skills, but they would donate money and give me scholarships to be able to play for a team. And so everybody that donated those scholarships to me, they were white. And so I had the privilege early on to kind of gain an understanding briefly of how their lives were. And so, I had to spend like weeks on weeks, like during a AAU basketball season, with a Caucasian family, just to play a sport. And so the things that opened up my eyes was like so much, it was just different from me that I never even thought about. They were free, it seemed like. Like, even though I was free, I didn't feel free, but they were free. Like, they feel like they can say what they want, do what they want. Like, the dreams was limitless. It wasn't, I had to make it and be respected because I played a sport. I can be anything I wanted. And so, and for us, it's like, man, you either have to play it. You have to pick up a basketball, football. You have to make it an entertainment as far as a rapper or actor. You have to make it in one of those elements in order to be respected. And for them, it was just like, man, I can be anything I want. I'm free. But hearing me, I think I'm free, but I'm not free. And so just hearing their stories, it made me gain a little further perspective. And then going to Utah even broadened that perspective, because I tell people all the time, it's just like when I first got to Utah, I'm like, people were like, why did you go to Utah? You know anything about Mormons? And they were drawing all this bad energy to Mormons. And so, that forced me to have a false narrative about them, because all that was pinpointed on me. And so I went out of my way. I had a lot of players that was on the team that are obviously Mormons, and I just educated myself. I asked them, what is it like going on a mission? What is it like being a Mormon? What is it like sharing letting them share their experiences with me made me more aware. So now when I go back to my hometown or go back to, the people of my same background, the same liking, now they're more educated on the situation, and now they're able to speak up and be like, nah, what you're saying, the narrative that you're saying about Mormons is not true, and so I think that's why I'm hopeful, because it's drawn up this conversation for people to open up, and now other people who may not go through that same situation have the same idea, and so now they're telling other people like, nah, that's a false narrative. This is what it's really like. And so me going to Utah definitely, I tell people all the time, exposure expands your expectations. And so that's what happened to me in Utah. I've educated myself on other people's backgrounds, and in turn that helped me out to change someone else's narrative of what they thought that person may be. And I think that's the key solution in this type of situation that we're at. Have other people outside of, the African-American culture change other people's false narratives that they may have of someone in the African-American culture, because they're going to pay bigger dividends and have a bigger impact because they're the same liking and they have more influence over that person than someone else. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I took.
Oh, that's awesome. That's well put. Now I do want to switch gears though, Kenneth, because as you know, it's just been kind of a tenuous few days here. And I want to be clear. I've known Morgan Scally for over 20 years. He's a fraternity brother of mine. I went to school with him when he played football at the U. So this one's hard for me, Kenneth, because Morgan's my friend, and I care about him. But I can't stand up for what he said. I can't stand up for that language. So we're all just doing the best we can to try and figure out what's going to be next here. What was your experience as a player at the University of Utah? Did you hear coaches use racist language, and what is your reaction to the news about Morgan?
Yeah, I think in the case as far as former players, you just gotta set the divider between prejudice and racism. You just gotta set the divider. Some people may have a view because they may have not gotten the right playing time, something of that nature, or they may have felt slighted. So sometimes you can't take everybody's opinion. You got to take it with a grain of salt and find it yourself. But me as a player, I never had experienced that in regards to, what you're speaking about. I didn't experience that personally. Maybe some others may have. I don't know. But me personally, I didn't experience none of that. It was just all love from the get-go. They understood my background. I understood their background. We had an open discussion about it. And, that's where it was. So me personally, I never experienced that.
All right, man. Hey, before we set you loose, what's going on with you? What's the latest? Where are you at and how are things?
Yeah, man, I'm in Houston, Texas, in the hot, humid area.
Yep.
Where you walk outside and you got to basically air fight with the mosquitoes to get them off you. But I'm out here, man, just being a family man, working, getting ready to create something in the making to where, I think it's going to be really impactful for people. I can't say too much in detail just yet, but it's coming soon, and I can't wait to expand on it with everybody because I think it's going to be a real good tour. But another thing I wanted to speak on about Coach Scally, man, he's a great human being. Obviously, the mistake is a huge mistake, but I do want to put that out there. He is a great human being, and a lot of times what I found out and what I learned is that the people who make the worst mistakes are often the greatest motivators and the best teachers. So now, the situation that he may have occurred, now he's able to educate someone else that may have not be aware and help them out and be like, hey, look, this is not what you're supposed to do. Or he may be an impact to someone else like, look, this is my mess up that I did, and it messed me up really bad. You should change your narrative and help educate other people, And so even though it was a bad thing, which is a huge mistake, trust me, it's a huge mistake, but at least this will allow him to regain it and be an impact to someone else of the same liking to, help them not get into that same situation he did. And because, he's paying a cost right now, but hopefully long term, it'll be a beneficial and helpful move for him to not really get hurt because he's a great human being.
So, Kenneth, if I'm understanding correctly, it sounds like you have Morgan's back. If the athletic director, if Mark Harlan called you and asked you your opinion, you would stand up for Morgan. You would have his back, yes?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I to be honest with you, I love Coach Scally. Like I said, it's a huge mistake, and I understand where they have to go with it as far as investigation, making sure everything is correct. But as a person, man, he's great. He earned – because I wasn't in his position group, so I didn't have that direct contact with him every single day. But I did because I was the opposition of this group. And one of the things that really turned me on to Scally as far as my respect for him is when we had all the leaders go to a leadership retreat. And so we were just opening up and amongst each other in a circle group, and we were just telling our stories. And, man, when I tell you it got deep, it got deep. A lot of tears were getting shedded, a lot of hugs. And after that, you just felt a whole bunch of weight off your shoulders because I didn't have to hide certain things with them no more. And the same thing with him. He didn't have to hide certain things with him. And so once you get over that hurdle and understand the person that he is, it's a huge mistake. It's not him of his character. And so I just wanted to put that out there about him because, man, I love this guy. He's a great guy, along with the other coaches. The coaches and staff was great at Utah.
All right, buddy. Hey, appreciate the time. I've always enjoyed our conversations over the years, and I knew you'd be great today, which you were. So if we can ever help you with what you have going on or anything else, please reach out and let us know. In the meantime, stay safe and be well, okay?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a great day.